Here in this video, we're going to be building out a prospecting agent where it runs on scheduled times. And by the end of this video, what you're going to have is with your OpenClaw, or you can pretty much just transfer the exact system and setup into some other agentic setup or framework that you're using. But by the end of this video, you're going to be having your own agent that's running on scheduled times, tasks, that is pretty much self-updating a CRM that you plug it into and pretty much just finding new prospects every single day. So we are going to be creating a lead agent that is prospecting in a random town somewhere in California for a specific kind of lead. And I'll be building everything out live so you can see everything in the screen. So without anything else to say, we're going to hop into the screen. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. And then by the end of this video, like I said, you will have your own lead prospecting agent. All right, the way we're going to be doing this is going to be in a very scrappy method, assuming you are trying to be resourceful and assuming that you are not trying to sign up for all like these platforms that offer you contacts and stuff like that. And you're just trying to pretty much scrape information online with using like these research tools. Then this is exactly what we're going to be building around, equipping the AI with very certain skills. So in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a tool called Parallel AI. So it's pretty much like this AI search tool that enables your AI to have better search or just results. You can also use something like Exa AI, or you can even use something like Perplexity. Depending on what model you're using, maybe its own internal web search works itself. That's totally also fine, but we're just going to be using Parallel AI. The way this is going to work is we are going to hook up Composio.dev, which pretty much enables your agent to connect into a bunch of different tools. And because you have a bunch of different tools at your disposal, you can pretty much just hook up right into the Composio platform itself. All the integrations that you have on the platform are just easily accessible, so you want to make sure you have a skill for that. You're going to want to fetch your own API. You're going to want to be able to get into your Airtable. We're going to hook that up also specifically for these sorts of leads. And then we are pretty much going to be using the Parallel AI. And the way it works is pretty much on cron schedules. So I recommend if you're going to be going this route to not just do 100 leads at a time, because this thing can sometimes burn out and sometimes just not get the best performance. When you're doing these tasks with agents, best performance, in my opinion, that I found is when you let it do batches of work, when it does, say, smaller, or it fetches you smaller results or smaller amounts, you know what I mean? So rather than getting like 100 or like 1,000 leads at the same time, it's probably going to give you some bad results. In my opinion, I would just say start at like 10 to 20, and then from there push it up depending on how the performance is, whether it's creating any duplicates, whether it's checking for duplicates, you know what I mean? So you just kind of want to stretch it and feel it out, see where it can take you to. So, you know, we're going to be giving it these tools. And then, you know, once you have the cron set up, you can schedule it to prospect every hour. You can schedule it to prospect during certain times throughout the day, or you can just do it to prospect, say, certain times of the week. So that's totally up to you. So now actually let's get into hooking this agent up and how does it actually work. The very first thing that you want to do, if you don't already have this inside of your OpenClaw, for instance, is you want to have Anthropic Skill Creator. In my opinion, it's probably the best one. And the reason why is because it gives you a consistent and repeatable process every time it spins up new skills, and every new session it knows exactly how to quickly read it, structure it, and things like that. The next thing that you want to do is go to composio.dev, and here when you go into their docs, you want to pretty much come to the quick start. Honestly, you don't have to complicate this. You can get the AI to do all this stuff. You know what I mean? Not everyone here is technical. The way we want to work with this is literally just view the markdown file. You want to pretty much copy everything. You want to come to the bot and be like, hey, paste the whole entire text file, and then just be like, here is the composio.dev. We want to hook up Airtable, create a skill for composio.dev itself, Airtable Parallel AI search. So I already have Parallel AI search, but you would pretty much want to do the same thing. You want to go to Parallel AI. You're going to want to go to their docs. Once we go to their docs, they just make it super easy. Go to LLM Quick Start. You literally just copy and paste all of this. You come here, you give the context to your bot, and then what you want to do is paste it. The only things that you have to do is you have to fetch the keys from all these providers. So if you haven't already created an account on Parallel AI, create that right now, fetch the API key. They give you $20 of free credit when you start up with their service, and it pretty much gives you access to their tool, which gives you this AI web search capability to like scrape, research, and things of that nature. So you're going to want to do that. You're also going to want to go on Composio Quick Start. You're going to want to create your own account, fetch the API key. Once you've got the API key, go to the OpenClaw browser. You're going to want to come to the configuration settings. You're going to want to click environment. You're going to want to click environment variables. And then what you're going to want to do here is scroll up, press add entry, and then add your environment variables here. So you're going to want to name it something like Parallel AI API key, Composio.dev API key. And then what you're going to want to do is paste the APIs here. Now, the thing about Composio is I don't think Parallel AI is on it there, so I have it separate. But here also what we want to do in the prompt is we want to pretty much create skills for all of these. So once it has hooked up the basic Composio.dev, once it's hooked up the Parallel AI, we want to get it to create skills for us. I forgot to mention also, but you have to put in the link here to the skill creator file so you can just have it there. Alternatively, go to the GitHub repository for the skill creator. You're going to want to come here, get the permalink. You're going to want to just make sure you got it copied there, and then literally just feed your AI to what's called, fetch this GitHub repo, create a skill for skill creator. And once it's done, it'll show up inside of your root directory for OpenClaw. Now, I already have a few skills here, so I don't have to do all this stuff, but assuming you prompt the AI and it comes back, you will have a skill directory for the skill creator from Anthropic. You will also have a Composio skill for how to use Composio with a skill.md file. And you're just going to want to make sure the bot or the agent that when you tell it to first create the skill creator skill, and then once it's created that, create all the other skills. So we already have Parallel AI. I already added the API key to the OpenClaw. And now the only other thing we have to do, which I am going to do in this video, is set up the Airtable skill. So assuming I already created you the skills, assuming it already is inside of your directory, however you are viewing your OpenClaw, here what we're going to want to do is to prompt the bot and tell it exactly what we're using it for. Ideally, you do this for all the skills, but in this case, I'll just show you how I'm doing it for Airtable. For Airtable, create a skill because we're going to create a CRM inside of Airtable. We're going to use Composio to access it. What we need to do is to find the relevant APIs on the documentation for Airtable so we can access it and update the leads consistently. Create a skill using the skill creator skill. So now the bot is going to go out there, pretty much just look through the documentation, understand what our goal here is, and in a moment it's going to have the skill file created. In the meantime, if you don't already have Composio.dev set up as a skill, just by literally linking the AI to the documentation and you providing the API key inside of the environment variables, this should be already done by the AI. It'll literally just add it there for you. It's not that hard. It's just literally going to be plugged into it. You also just have to provide your API inside the configuration. That's literally all you have to do. What you're going to have to do here is once you have given it the name of your workspace, so I have it blurred out here, but you're just going to want to give it the name of your workspace and the name of the exact project you are in. And then here we're going to have to also add into the skill the authentication config ID. I usually like to do it inside of the skill itself, so anytime it references the skill or you spawn the agent, or especially if you're spawning a sub-agent in an isolated environment, so at least it knows exactly what the heck to do and where to go. What we're going to do is create a new authentication. We're going to type in Airtable, and you're going to want to hook up to your own Airtable. We're going to do OAuth, and then pretty much here it's going to have, you're going to see all the various different scopes that this AI agent is going to have access to. Through Composio, I think it's great because you can pretty much just use one API key to hit up a bunch of different providers. Some providers aren't here, you know what I mean? That's why we are installing and using Parallel AI separately, but nonetheless, I like to use this to like pretty much manage a lot of things. I was able to like do quite a bit of few things here. I know some of these are blurred out just because there's some sensitive information, but nonetheless, I mean, you can do a lot with it. We're going to want to create the authentication configuration. You're going to want to connect your account. This user ID, you're going to want to fetch this user ID and also paste it to the bot. So I'm just going to copy it here and say this is the external user ID. And all I wrote here is just external user ID and then pinpointing what the user ID is. I'm going to connect now with my Airtable. I'm going to sign in with my Gmail account that I'm using for Airtable. And then you're going to want to pretty much add a base. So you know what? The one thing I should have done before I started is actually create a base. So I'm going to quickly create a demo base. Okay, we're going to try this once again. I'm going to connect the account. I'm going to hook up my base. This is a demo CRM. I added all the resources, grant access. Once it's in, it's in. You're going to want to make sure you give it the ID. You're also going to want to make sure the bot has your account ID. So now also the bot responded and told us it created the skill. If we go into skills, we have the Airtable CRM. And here exactly you are going to see, what's it called? The Airtable CRM skill. So like all the available actions, what it can do. It's going to use the, so I see here, it says it's going to use the Airtable API key. So I'm just going to clarify with the AI real quick. And by the way, we are accessing Airtable CRM through composio.dev. So make sure you update the skill there. We're going to be accessing the tool once again through Composio. So use the Composio API key in order to access Airtable. Once you update the skill, I just created a connection inside of Composio. Please check and verify whether or not you have access and create a row saying hi. So I just prompted the bot. We're just going to see whether or not it has access. Assuming you gave access to the composio.dev platform, the skills you authenticated with OAuth, this thing should be able to access your Airtable. The base ID is inside this URL, or you can just try fetching it through Airtable. So it's asking for my base ID. And we're just going to let it access it. It says it found the Airtable connection. Okay, for a moment there I was worried it was not going to be able to do it, but it clearly just did. If you go here to Airtable, it said hi. So one thing I always like to do is I like to tell the bot, hey, okay, since now you figured out how to do it, sometimes you may have to push and be like, hey, search up online how to like fix this, use it. And that's pretty much what I prompted here. Like if you don't know what to do, just search up online exactly what to do. So now what I'm going to do is prompt it, update your current skill so you know in the future how to access it. Update your current skill so in the future you know exactly how to access it so we don't run into the same exact problem. So now it's going to update its own skill. And now what we're going to do, since we have this simple Airtable, we're going to want to tell the bot to just create a simple CRM for it. Once you're done with the first task, set and organize the CRM in just a few simple columns. We just want a basic CRM, nothing complicated. We're going to be looking for names, the business, the website, the title of a person, the email, and phone number if available, and then a notes column. That's it. So that message is in queue. What we're going to want to do now is just wait for this thing to finish up. Okay, so as you can see here, it updated it. And honestly, I'm just going to do a few things here. First thing I'm going to do is prompt it how to delete and add rows. So in the future skill, it knows exactly what to do. But first thing is just to save time. Honestly, right now, we don't have to get too complicated, but you can, create any fields you want here. You can leave any attachments you want, whatever. I'm just going to position this all the way to the end. And then you can do in the future, if say like you're using Airtable, keep the statuses, then you can kind of monitor the prospects and things like that. So that's all for the future if you want to get like really fancy here. But just since this is a demo, I'm just showing you how to do it really quickly. It's going to update the skill. And now what we want to do is we want to create our first sub-agent if you don't have an agent. So as you can see here, I have just a few demo sub-agents here in my workspace. Now, if you go to files, they have various different file structures. In my opinion, the only ones you really need here is memory, user, identity, tools, soul, agents. What I need you to do now is to create a new sub-agent. This sub-agent is going to be called the Airtable CRM lead prospector. You want to give it the main files such as the user.md, the agents.md, the memory.md, tools.md, the identity.md, the memory.md, and fill out all the fields. Also create a skill directory within the sub-agent so it's a duplicate access of the parallel AI skill, the Composio skill, and the Airtable skill. So one thing I like to do when I'm working with agents is, so as you can see here, there is, I believe this has been updated since last we used it. So as you can see here, I created a column called add new column. It pre-filled with our information. So I'm going to take out some of the sensitive stuff here, obviously, but it created it, and then in the future I can just reference it. The way I like to create sub-agents is, once say you're creating a sub-agent, so in this case, let's just look into this newsletter agent. I like to have there the basic files that it can reference. So anytime it spawns, it can reference basic things. So who am I, the tools file, the soul file, like a little bit about it, a simple memory file, like what's its purpose, what is it doing, the identity, something super simple, you know what I mean, like what are you, just some like super simple stuff. Honestly, you don't need all this stuff here. You can just see this for like the memory and stuff like that. But the identity and then the agents.md, just some basic stuff. So I'm going to show you exactly what it's going to look like inside of the Airtable CRM agent. And then what you want to do is have a skill directory within the sub agent so it can call these various different skills. All right, so once it's done and it's created everything, you will see pretty much everything here. It's created its own skills. It's created its own core files. You will notice it also inside of OpenClaw. As you can see here, it has all the core files. It knows exactly what it is. This is pulling out agents from another video I did, which is pretty much how to interact with our tasks and how to achieve goals. So it talks a little bit about me here, already pulled some of that information, memory, some fields, how to work with like the Airtable. So like just some like little simple things like that I like to add into the soul. So here you want to kind of customize it. I mean, honestly, you don't really have to customize this at all because it's literally just doing one narrow thing, and its sole little purpose is just to find leads. The most important thing is what's happening here. Once it's properly created, you will notice it that it is in your config here. You're just going to select the primary model, so it's just going to inherit the default. So should be good whenever you spawn it. So the primary model is the minimax, which is what I'm using. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to be able to set this agent and make it scheduled on frequent periodic tasks and prospect for us. And we're just going to do a local area in, I guess you can say, California. Now what I want you to do is create a cron job for every single day between 9 and 12 p.m. to prospect 10 new leads. Use parallel search AI for the web search. Use Composio to add new leads into the CRM, and make sure that the agent ID for the cron job is for the specific agent ID. Make sure you prompt the agent to use its own tools. I gave it basically a prompt here because in the cron jobs, when these things are spawning, they want to have a prompt and they want to know exactly what to do. So once it creates the cron job, we'll look inside exactly to see how these cron jobs actually kind of look like inside OpenClaw. So we're just going to see what it did. All right, so if we look here, it created this cron job, and it is including some of the information. It's calling the agent ID right here, the name of the cron job. It's scheduled for 9. I'm just going to tell it schedule it. So I just told it quickly to change it, so you're going to see the expression change in just a moment here. So here's the prompt the AI created itself. I just blacked out some information here so you can kind of see what the prompt looks like. But pretty much usually what I do when I'm prompting these things is to check its own core memory files. And so it has context. The other thing I want to add here is whenever it's being triggered and spawned in a new session, so it only appends information and it checks for duplicates. Check for duplicates, make sure you do not find 10 new leads that already exist inside of the CRM. Only appended new contacts. So as you can see here, it changed the expression so it runs every hourly between 9 and 1 p.m. Now the way we're gonna schedule and actually run this thing to test it is just pressing run. So as you can see here, if you go to sessions and then after I press run, it spawned the subagent, so agent Airtable CRM lead. If you click into this, so obviously I'm gonna have to blur out some stuff here, but you can see that it's fetching the parallel AI key, it's fetching its own resources, and then it's gonna start doing its own research and then adding it into the Airtable CRM. So as you can see here, it's finding a bunch of information on the web right now. But it found prospects using parallel AI, and now that was pretty much after just me manually running it. You already have the cron job going and spawn. So every single day between 9 and 1 p.m. you can expect this thing to run and append people to this list. You know what I mean? I know it's a bit messy here in terms of just like how it works because I just want to be kind of quick, but the idea here is you want to refine the prompt. You want to specify exactly the columns you want to add inside of the memory.md file, what columns to edit, what it can do, hard rules in terms of what it is allowed to do, what not to do. So such as never delete your current leads, always add a certain status to a lead, look within a certain proximity, you know what I mean? So you can get very creative in terms of what you can get these agents to do. But in my opinion, you know, everything's hooked up. It can go out and prospect every single day. This thing's prospecting and finding you leads in the area with public information. If you want to go even further with this concept, I do recommend that you find or you hook up like a bouncer email test. So that's like the pro of using something like Apollo or something. They already have like verified emails and contacts, because if you are sending out emails and you're getting bounces, it's just going to drop your score and just put you into spam. So if you are doing this kind of manually and you're trying to like save costs, you can consider maybe using a tool where it can verify the lead email information and the quality of the contact information you have to prevent any bounces, so then you do not destroy your reputation with the emails you are using. So that's going to be all for the video. In this video, you learned exactly what it takes to build a email prospecting agent, and this thing's going to be running for you every single day, finding you leads. If you want this thing to find you 100 leads, you just pretty much have to schedule it 10 times per day to run and get 10 search queries. I would just start off at that. If you notice it's doing in excelling really, really well, searching the criteria, then you can amp it up. Otherwise, in the beginning, I don't suggest you give it a lot of volume and tasks to do, because you just don't know whether or not the quality of what the leads and the agents are fetching for you is actually something you can work with. So that'll be all for the video. If you want to learn more things about AI, agents, automations, things that are happening in tech, then what I'm going to tell you to do is subscribe to this channel, watch for more,